Welcome to another episode of Brand Chops, where we're chopping up brands to see what they're made of. My name is Zack Lemear.
And I'm Chris Duhaime. And today we're going to talk with our guest, Shawn Walsh, about the importance of building a strong brand foundation and how it's important to differentiate yourself in an oversaturated market like MSPs. Shawn is the former CEO of an IT managed service company. He grew to 4 locations and then was able to successfully exit after he was acquired by a national IT company. And now he's a managing partner and senior consultant at Encore Strategic. Most recently, he co-authored a book called The Pumpkin Plan for MSPs, which is a part of a series with Mike Michalowicz. Thanks so much for being with us, Shawn.
Thanks for having me, Chris. I appreciate it.
Coming live and direct from the woods, but we're going to do this.
I am. We are sitting in the mountains of Georgia right now.
It's one of the perks of being an entrepreneur. You can work from anywhere pretty much. Let's just talk a little bit about a brand foundation. A lot of people don't understand what a brand really is. And a brand is not your logo. I actually just found a really great thing on LinkedIn, and I posted on LinkedIn today that showed all these different logos and says, this is not your brand, this is not your brand. It's really about the feeling and the experience that you give people consistently over time that becomes your brand. But a lot of people will spend a lot of time and money on a logo and forget to build a brand around it. And when we met you, I know that you're a coach as well, full disclosure to everybody on the, listening in, but we had talked about this for so long and the things that we do to help other companies build that foundation that we wanted to do it with you and some of your clients. So since we've worked together, what significant growth or improvement have you seen in your business that you can attribute to this kind of process?
Well, Zach, let me start out by saying, yes, I am a coach and I teach people how to do these things. But yet there is still value in my engagement with you and Chris and your company to have that outside set of eyes to really look at things, analyze things, and kind of bring them together. And just because you're an expert in it, sometimes it's hard to see the forest through the trees when it's your forest. No matter how much business experience you have, there really is great value in bringing in smart professionals who can look at your company and give you an objective opinion on things. And one of the things that we were struggling with, we were bringing together 2 companies and 2 brands. And one of the things that we struggled with was how to have a unified message and how to be able to present this company as one company that has multiple offerings. And we were at trade shows and we were talking to people, and it was kind of like, okay, what do you do again? Okay, you do this and you do that and you do some of this. Our primary areas are we do peer groups, we do direct consulting, but we also brought in what we call recruiting as a service. And how do you message that without sounding like, well, we do everything? You don't want people to think we do everything because then you do nothing. By bringing in your team, the idea was really, how do we get a cohesive, unified message around these services? And that is something that I think we accomplished with your help, and it has worked fantastic. So the thing that I've seen is it's much easier for us to have conversations at the trade show, where when we're looking for speaking engagements, the messaging is clearer. People aren't confused anymore about what we do. So that really has been a huge, huge benefit of the engagement.
Being a business coach, it's a relatively saturated market along with MSPs, which was your other market that you were in. Can you just go over maybe the importance of being able to differentiate yourself through your brand when you're in that sort of saturated market? Because where everyone's selling the same widgets, it sometimes can get difficult to differentiate yourself.
Absolutely. And a lot of people fall into the trap of they're delivering a service that's very similar. And they say, well, we do what they do, but we do it better. And the problem with that is when you compare yourself to your competition, studies have shown that it doesn't help differentiate yourself. It only makes you look more like your competition. So it actually works against you. And one thing that we've been able to do after this engagement is to have a very clear message that we go up with people to say, here's what we do, and say it in a way that does not make us look like everybody else. Because yes, it is a fairly crowded market in the space that we're in. We specialize in IT service providers. They have several choices of coaches and peer group companies. But we were able to clearly identify our differentiators in the process of working through with your team. And we're able to lead with that. And one of the things that we lead with is that we are an independent voice. We only serve one master. We serve our clients, where many peer group companies in our space are owned by private equity, and they might be the same private equity group that you're trying to sell your company to. And now they've had your numbers, and they know where all the skeletons are buried. And we don't have that problem, because we come in that we only serve the client. And to be able to lead with that message and know that that's an important differentiator to the people that we serve really has helped us clarify the message.
I think it's interesting too. I know one of the things that we went over a lot was like the core values and making sure they're unique and different, and not using integrity and all those sort of boilerplate names. Can you talk to the importance of that too? Like, how do you differentiate yourself even further from that, even though all those are key things that every business should have?
Yeah, Chris, that's a great question. And one thing that we stress with the companies that we work with, there's so many companies that think that core values are something that you put on a poster, you hang it on the wall, and it's marketing fluff. And the reality is you need to have well-defined core values. And as you said, things like integrity, honesty. If you look up Patrick Lencioni on YouTube, Permission to Play, is a great 3-minute clip that describes this. But those values are what we call permission to play. They're table stakes. They're important, but we screen for them when we're bringing team members on, or when we're bringing clients on. What we want in our core values is, what are the things that will make your experience with us different? Oftentimes, comments from people going, wow, you really shared a lot, and I haven't engaged you, and I'm not paying you. Why are you giving me this for free? And I tell them very simply, one of our core values is help first, profit later. And we believe that. We do it. We do it on a regular basis. It's not a marketing strategy. It's just who we are. We like to see people succeed. If you pay us, it's gravy. Not necessarily a great business model as far as profitability, but it's a great one for building relationships and for satisfaction. But it is something that makes us different. It is something that will make the experience that our clients have with us different. And that is so important to have that spelled out. And when you're sitting with a prospect and they're going, well, what's different about you? Why should I engage you? Your first response should be to go to the core values and to start explaining to them, here's our core values. This is what makes us different. This is why you're going to have a different experience with us.
From an MSP perspective, obviously you have a lot of experience from that on both sides, right? As the business owner, and then also as the business consultant for MSPs. For any MSPs that are maybe listening, do you have any advice on things that you did to differentiate yourself when you had the MSP? Because I know this core values thing has gone way back, because I remember when I was first working with you on the MSP, you had us do a poster for you with your core values that you hung up on the wall. And I do remember it just being like a thing that you guys talked a lot about. So I'd love to just give some guidance for some of those MSPs that are listening.
Yeah, absolutely. So number one, you hire team members, you evaluate team members, and you fire team members by alignment to core value. Your team members are either aligned with your core value or they're not. I don't care what their technical skill set is. If they are not consistently demonstrating your core values, they need to go. And you'll never have a good, cohesive team that can drive your company to growth if you have team members that do not emulate your core values. So number one. Number two, stop thinking that differentiation is some dramatic technical thing that's going to cost money to put in place. Differentiation can be so simple, and yet create such a big impact. I know it doesn't look like it today, but one of the reasons why I'm down here in Georgia is I was keynoting at a conference, and I wear a suit and a bow tie. And there are people in that audience that say, hey, I've known you for years. I've never seen you in a suit before. And they kind of get a laugh out of it. But one of the things we're talking about during that keynote is differentiation. And what I point out to people is this is a differentiator. When I was an MSP, we worked with law firms. And one day I was in the firm. I was in one of the partners' offices. doing some work. And he said, obviously you sell to lawyers. I'm like, yeah, that's our main market that we serve. He goes, well, let me ask you a question. If you want to sell to lawyers, why do you look like one of your techs? And I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, you're wearing a logo shirt and Dockers, just like the guys who come in here and turn the screwdrivers. You're the owner of the company. You're supposed to be the industry expert. Why don't you dress like it? He said, your audience are lawyers. Wear a suit and tie. He goes, lawyers are typically very judgmental people by nature, and they're going to look at you and they're going to automatically assume that they're smarter than you and they're up here because you're dressing like this person that's climbing under the desk. And, we never went on a sales call after that without a suit and tie. People used to comment on it all the time. They'd never seen an MSP come in a suit and tie. And it really became a differentiator. And simply showing dressed up like my client. Now, that doesn't always mean a suit and tie. I mean, we had a large truck repair facility, and I would never think to go in there in a suit and tie. But, they say that the golden rule is treat others the way you would want to be treated. When you're running a business and scaling it, you need to apply the platinum rule. You need to treat others the way they want to be treated. Show up dressed like your clients. Talk about their business. Don't come in and talk about your technology and all the things you know. They don't care. They care about the end result. Talk about what you can do to drive their business results. What's in it for them? Just having those different conversations, that is a huge differentiator. One of the terms that I use with clients is stop having server room conversations and start having boardroom conversations. We know a lot of MSP owners, they don't know how to have boardroom conversations. They know how to talk tech. That's what they're comfortable with. That's where they stay. You got to get out of that. Learn how to translate that to, here's what our technology is going to do for your business goals and objectives.
There's a lot of great nuggets you just put in there. I love the platinum rule. I've never heard of it before, but I really like that idea. And I think that's absolutely true. You made a lot of good points. And then this really talks a little bit about brand attributes. When you're going there and you wear this suit and tie and you wear the bow tie and whatever it is, there's going to be certain elements of that you can even tweak to be brand colored. You can be other things like that, so that these brand attributes are the thing that people can pick you out. Because again, most people think a logo is your brand, and that's not. Your logo is there to be easy to recognize, remember, and share. And that's part of your brand attributes. So if you can align yourself with what your brand identity is, then you'll be easy to recognize, remember, and share. There's a guy that I know that has this whole thing, and he's everywhere. And he calls it the red hat something. And that's it. It's just a red hat. It has nothing. Yeah. I know him. I know him pretty well. And he doesn't really talk a lot about branding, but he exemplifies that one thing about standing out. And now no one cannot know, because he's very specific. He's got the red hat. He's always got like a pair of like fancy Nikes on. I don't know if fancy Nikes is a thing, but he's got expensive Nikes or something. He's always got a pair of like Jordans on. He's super easy to recognize, remember, and share.
Like you said, brand. Okay. So, I'm sitting here with my logo on. This logo is a visual cue for people to go, oh, that's Encore. But the reaction they have when they see that visual cue is up to me. Let's go back to the core value discussion. I want people to see this logo, and I want them to think those are the guys who help. Okay, or whatever absolutely. Core value it is. But it's up to me to create the emotional reaction that's generated by the logo. Creating a logo is the easy part. Putting your brand out there, and what does the brand represent? What does it mean? Some people look at some logos and go, look at the Enron logo. Those are the guys who ripped everybody off. So what emotional reaction does somebody have? What comes top of mind when somebody sees that logo? That's up to you.
BP had a good example of this when they had all those crazy, and they probably still do, oil spills all over the place. They ended up having a rebrand so that their logo would look more natural, more green, more organic, even though it's baloney. But it does have this resonance, this emotional resonance, and it makes you think or believe in a certain way, there's a great book out there called Persuasion. It talks about you persuading people with certain things subconsciously, and that's one of those things. But this also, you talked a little bit about the core values and how, you've got to be able to make hiring and firing decisions against them. That's pretty much, we always preach this all the time. Don't tell me trust or integrity. Show me how this echoes through every essence of your business. Show me how you can hire and fire against these rules. Because most people will say, this is my company, my brand, me, my. And it's really not. A brand is not for you. It's for everyone else. And so if you're not building a brand for the people that you serve, you're just building a logo for yourself. And a lot of people have their personal beliefs and their personal influences, and they just shoehorn them into the core values of the brand. But those things can be shifted and changed based on new information and new experiences. People change their religion, for crying out loud, right? These have to be so unflappable, like they are the 10 commandments, because if you cannot hire and fire against them, they're not strong enough to be the foundation for your business. Tell our audience how they can best connect with you if they need some coaching help for an MSP.
So best way to get in touch with me is my email, Shawn, SHAWN, at EncoreStrategic.io. I'm also very active on LinkedIn. You can catch me there. And you can also go to our website. That's at EncoreStrategic.io. If you're interested in learning more, there's information on the website. And there's also the opportunity to download a free chapter from our book, The Pumpkin Plan for Managed Service Providers.
Fantastic. And we'll put all this in the show notes, links, everything that people need to know so they can get access to all of your freebies and your resources. But again, thank you so much for your time and for coming on Brand Chops. So tune in next week, everyone, when we chop up brands to see what they're made of. Brand Chops is brought to you by the fine people at Pivot Creative. Pivot Creative is a full-service branding and marketing agency that partners with businesses to build brands that connect so that every dollar you spend is an investment and not an expense. If you need some branding or marketing guidance, a website, a new brand, or want to learn more about one of the topics we cover on the show, please reach out to us at pivotcreative.com. If you know someone that would benefit from learning more from one of our shows, please share the episode. Visit brand-chops.com. And as always, like and subscribe if you find this content to be helpful. See you next time on Brand Chops, where we chop up brands to see what they're made of.